You are listening to One Love Radio.
Amor, eu sinto aqui. Calor, eu sinto em ti. Valor, tudo sinto que é verdadeiro, é verdadeiro. Amor, eu sinto aqui. Calor, eu sinto em ti. Valor, tudo sinto que é verdadeiro, é verdadeiro. Vou comemorar, festejar com a minha gente. Quero me alegrar e sorrir com a minha gente. Vou comemorar, festejar com a minha gente. Quero me alegrar e sorrir com a minha gente.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining. If you're a regular on our shows, you will know that we're just going to wait for a couple of minutes more for everyone else to join the stream. And while you're waiting, please share the stream. Share it on Facebook Live. And we'll get started very, very soon.
Quero me alegrar e sorrir com a minha gente. Vou comemorar, festejar com a minha gente. Quero me alegrar e sorrir com a minha gente. Quando cantas comigo, danças com meu sorriso. Eu a passada, penso no teu sorriso. Tudo que eu preciso, sinto amada, eu sinto amada. Vou comemorar, festejar com a minha gente. Quero me alegrar e sorrir com a minha gente. Vou comemorar, festejar com a minha gente. Quero me alegrar e sorrir com a minha gente. Comemorar, vou comemorar com a minha gente. Ai, 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 ai. Vou comemorar, festejar com a minha gente. Quero me alegrar e sorrir com a minha gente.
Okay.
You are listening to One Love Radio.
One Love. Thank you to everybody for joining. I think it's time we get this thing started. Got everyone here but one. There's going to be one late arrival in about 10 minutes time, so yes, I think we can get things started.
Sonhando, sonhando, nunca deixes o calor do frio penetrar.
So to every one of you, wherever you are in the world, whatever your lockdown situation may be, hope you're all staying safe and well. And if you've been keeping up to date with the Kizomba lockdown events here on One Love Radio, then I hope you've been enjoying them so far. We've had interviews with some top celebrities such as Grace Evora, Keisha, Bonifacio, just to name but a few. We've also had some great fun at with the Kizomba KO tournament. Stay tuned to find out more about those. But to catch up on what you've missed so far, just check out the One Love Radio website by going to oneloveradio.net. From there you can find all of the recordings on the shows page. You can also see videos from the YouTube page. Lots of stuff on there, lots of interesting stuff on there for you to get your teeth around. And as you may know, today was originally planned to be an exclusive interview with the one and only Loony Johnson. But unfortunately, it did not materialize for reasons beyond our control. So as an alternative, we decided to have a more serious discussion on a more serious and current issue relating to the civil rights unrest taking place right now all over the world. Yes, that's right, the issue of Black Lives Matter. And to join me in this discussion, I'm very happy to announce a group of very, very popular and opinionated individuals who are regarded by many of us here in the UK as leaders in the Kizomba community. So, without any further delay, let me just say a big welcome to Angel.
Hiya.
And Richard Voogt. How you doing, guys? Good stuff. We're used to the claps, aren't we, Richard?
Yes, my brother. You already know. You know, not all of us can rock the hair like Super D right here, at Angel. You know what I mean? Got to work it out.
What can we say? Well, hello, my people. Everyone okay?
Yeah.
Happy Sunday.
It's summer. So nice.
And how are you, Angel? You enjoying the weather?
I am actually. It's a really nice day today. I went for a little walk to the shop to do essential shopping. It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, loved it.
Lovely day. It's a lovely day. So, as you know, there was supposed to be a serious, well, not a serious discussion. There was supposed to be a planned exclusive interview with the Loony Johnson. That wasn't to materialize. So obviously we had to think fast and put this one in together in very short notice. So thank you to all of you for coming on here in such short notice. There is one other who will be joining us in about 10 minutes from now. She's running a bit late, and that is Iris de Brito. So she'll be joining us very soon. So yeah, again, really appreciate you guys joining just like this all of a sudden. We should also take this time just to say hello to a few of the people that are watching as well. If you haven't said anything or made yourself known on the comments, please do so we can give you a shout out. What we have here, we have Terry Ann Grice, Natalia, Natasha, Marta, Sophia, Chalet. How you doing, people? Shayla, Zimmer, Winston, Fox, White Winston. Yeah, Josephat, Hamakala. I'm really I'm gonna say apologies in advance for that.
You're getting better, Mitch. You're getting better. It's little by little, each episode.
Baby steps. Baby steps. So this is an interactive session as well. So please, comments throughout some of the things that you're hearing. If you want to join the discussion, you can do via the comments. There's a limitation to how many we can get on screen, but yeah, if there's a point you want to make, you can make it in the comments, and we'll definitely pick it up. So there's a few points that were made that we want to include and to add some structure to the discussion as well. I'm just going to run through those, and this is like kind of like an agenda, if you were, stroke questions. All right, so we're just going to run through those, and then we'll kick off the discussion. I don't know. Before we do that, there was something else we were going to do, and we agreed that just before the call, that we were going to just run through the opinions and the positions, so we understand where we stand as individuals on the panel with regards to the whole Black Lives Matter topic. Okay, so I'm going to kick off just so you know. My full name is Mitch. So I was raised throughout the 70s, and in the 70s, racism was a lot more serious than it is today. Racism was real, okay? And as you grow up in that kind of environment and them kind of surroundings, it becomes part of who you are, whether you like it or not. Positive as well as negative experiences do that to any human being. So it becomes who you are, not because you start to hate things, but more because you start being more aware and sensitive to things, whereas somebody who may not have experienced that may not be aware or as sensitive. So that's where I am. Who's next?
Ladies first.
Ladies first, okay.
Okay, so I'm Angel. Most of you will know me from Urban Kids UK. So I'm the promoter, the founder of Urban Kids events in London. I grew up in London all of my life. I have started off, I lived in Council Estate in Hackney, and then we moved to East London, and then I went to school in East London. So yeah, all of my life it's been sort of London based. Where I stand on the matter, I have actually not experienced racism growing up. I haven't had any instances where I've had any abuse, or at work I've never felt like my colour has held me back. So yeah, I do believe in the movement of all Black Lives Matter, but I also feel that we as a people need to do things to make a change as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Angel. Richard?
Yeah, so welcome to everyone. And as Mitch said, obviously, the talk show for today had to be postponed, but that gives us a really great opportunity, a nice platform to have a discussion with everyone. Myself, I have a dance school here as well, the Santos Dance UK in London. But personally, I'm from South Africa. Grew up there in Cape Town and Johannesburg until I was 12 years old. So probably I was part of the first generation of kids in South Africa to be in schools together, all races mixed together, as we talked about in the show before. And then when I was 12, my family immigrated here to the UK. My gran lived here. Unfortunately, my mother had some illnesses, so we ended up having to live in Council Estate and stuff. So obviously, personally, I can talk a bit from maybe that experience of living in Council Estate in London, big estates in South London. And for me, my perspective, I would say that I feel that often governments and institutions, they try to measure things with statistics and that sort of thing. And I think that that's a sort of quantitative way to look at things. But at the same time, there's a qualitative way, and qualitative is just as justified as quantitative. And that's about feelings, And I think that for me, I would say that there's an undeniable level of, discrimination against maybe Black people in the terms of racism and other groups. And as you say, maybe it's not as bad as before, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be addressed. And that historical racism has consequences for people even living today. So I think there is things that need to be done to address that. So I do support that movement,
Okay, thanks. And
Dixon. Obviously, I am half Mozambican, and I was born in Mozambique, but I'm half Portuguese. half Mozambican. I lived most of my life in Portugal. That's how my Kizomba culture comes from, let's say. My influences, you know. I think it's like Richard said, I did suffer those racial stuff when we moved to Portugal, because pretty much, you know, you move to a city and you're the only black kid, right? And when I say the only black kid, the reason why I'm saying that is because in Portugal, there's no mixed race from a Portuguese perspective. We are all black. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter if you're lighter or if you're darker. It's all the same, basically. And I did suffer a bit, which we can talk during the show through it. And but it wasn't like massively, let's say. It never. You know what I mean? We have to live with it. It wasn't like obviously it wasn't that aggressive, I would like to say. To the UK, it was slightly different. It's more silent.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I see it. It. And I think we can discuss about it. We have a good.
All right. Cool.
About it. I just want to also to inform that I live in Plymouth, which means I live 5 hours away from London. So me to tell you, I live in the end of the world, and I push Kizomba right here, and I defend this sector of the universe. Everyone knows, but I grew myself 10 years pushing my brand, pushing my craziness to festivals, to events, and that's why a lot of people know me, you know, and because obviously, this side, I am the man guy.
Super. You got the S on your chest. You got the S on your chest.
It's my marketing.
Right. So listen, we have our fourth guest who's arrived now. So she's just waiting in the background there for me to bring her on. So everybody, big welcome to Iris the Brito.
Hey guys.
You're right. It's proper African time. I'm so jealous.
Sorry.
You wanted your own clap, your own personal clap, didn't you?
Sorry, guys. Sorry, that was not on purpose. But you know, Sunday's a different thing for me. So, but thank you for inviting me last minute. But yeah.
Okay.
You see, I even got my thing. I haven't done my hair. Yeah, this is like bad hair day. You got to put something on. You know what I mean?
Matting. So, Iris, you got the gist of what we were doing just then. Yeah, we were just talking about just giving a bit of an extended introduction to ourselves and just talking briefly about our position in the whole Black Lives Matter issue and a little touch on your any personal experience you may have, if any.
Yeah, I've been sort of posting and discussing this a little bit. I think my position comes from two things. In terms of the arts, in terms of what I do as my profession, I just feel like if you are an artist or somebody that is representing culture that has African or Caribbean roots, I think you need to be speaking. You need to have a voice. To be honest with you, I don't think the Black Lives Matter is actually it's actually not a black issue. To be honest, I think it's a white issue because these are the communities that have to be aware, educate themselves, and implement those changes. In terms of my own experience, for those who don't know me or just met me now, I'm a mixed race woman. So this is so my experience is going to be different already, regardless. And this I know some black people don't like to hear that, and they go, "Oh my God, she's betraying us." Well, when it's convenient, and others understand, but it is a different experience. Throughout my life, I've had to negotiate this bridge between black and white and white and black or whatever. I've had to negotiate that throughout all of my life. So even in the arts, when I used to go to auditions, when I used to go to castings, it was like, I'm not black enough for a role, I'm too dark for another role or whatever. This has happened zillions of times and it still happens now. So my experience has been within that context. So there is privilege in that, but it's also a lot of other type of hurt and in that as well, and that needs to be acknowledged also within this movement, because this is also a voice. You know, just because it's Black Lives Matter, what, I don't have a voice? So I've been told that. The reason I'm saying that, because I've been told that through a lot of different comments and you know, private messages and all that palaver. But my experience in the arts, it's been fairly straight through, and I've had a lot of discrimination, yes, from Portugal, in England. I've had that, I've experienced it. But my take on it, my approach on it, it was just like, what was that? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead anyway and do it. Sometimes worked, sometimes it didn't, and I had to retrace my steps and retrace my dreams and into what I wanted to do, because this was happening in front of me.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that, Iris. Now, we are going to go through the questions. What I'm going to do is run through the questions I have on the agenda. Then we're going to play some music just to keep the mood nice and kind of uplifting. Okay, we're going to be serious, but we're not going to be too serious, because, you know, we're Kizomba people. We like to have fun in everything we do. Well, I speak for me anyway, at least. So everything. So let me run through it quickly, then we'll have some music, and then we'll get to the nitty-gritty. So the first on the list was how serious is the race issue here in the UK? And are we all experiencing these racial issues? Why do we need to demand to fight for Black Lives Matter rather than everyone's lives? Why does it have to be Black lives? Does the level of racism in this country warrant this level of civil unrest? What is it with the statues? Why is it so important for people to destroy them and defend them equally? What about law enforcement interaction with the public? Are we happy with that, with the law enforcement interaction here in the UK? We're talking about the States now, talking about here. What kind of change do we want to see from the ground up? In other words, ourselves, and from the top down, government. And then finally, what should the social responsibility be for government overall? Okay, so I think that is it for the questions. If anyone else has anything that they want to add to that potentially, or want to throw in there, like I said, it's an interactive session, so feel free to drop something in the comments, and if we pick it up and if there's time, we will try to tackle it. Maybe we can kind of tie it in with some of the questions we already have. All right, everyone good with that?
Sounds good.
Good so far? Okay, sounds good to me. All right then. So once again, if you've just joined, apologies, we couldn't have Loony Johnson, but we're having a serious topic. We've got a nice audience here. Really appreciate everybody for being here. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this discussion around Black Lives Matter just after this.
As vão falar, e através delas eu vou te mostrar o quanto eu te amo, o quanto eu te quero. Se é do jeito que tu gostas, tu gostas. Não vou julgar, mas no chão vamos celebrar o amor. Oh, paixão, eu quero que tu saibas. Meu amor é tu, porque eu faço tudo, meu amor é tu, só tu, porque eu faço tudo, eu faço tudo. Arrumada, perfumada, linda, sexy para o meu amor. O que quiseres, o que disseres, eu faço tudo, seja meu comando. Farei um jantar especial do jeito que tu gostas. Tu gostas, nossas jogadas no chão, vamos celebrar o amor.
Okay, let's get back to the meaty stuff now. So yeah, also hello to Rashida as well. Rashida made a very good point here. Are we going to get through that agenda? Well, I think we have about an hour or two, up to 2 hours, I think. But if we don't cover it all, we're not expecting to solve the world's problems here.
Surprise, Iris! Surprise!
something positive, I think. So we'll see how time goes, eh? Right. So the first question was, how serious is the race issue here in the UK, and are we all experiencing them? I'm going to direct this initially at Angel, because we had an interesting conversation about this a couple of days ago, Angel, didn't we?
Yeah, so just on mute. So I think all racism is serious, right? So even to the different degrees people have experienced it, you know, when it happens, it's wrong. That's the first thing to say. Me personally, as I was saying to you the other day, I have not experienced racism growing up in this country, in London. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. I don't know if you can hear it as well. So I actually grew up.
You need to mute it.
What's that?
Sorry, carry on.
Has a page, an extra page opened on Facebook.
It's okay. It's okay. We've sorted it now. Carry on, Angel.
Yeah, is it okay? Okay, yeah. So yeah, basically, what I was saying is that I grew up in Hackney, in Hoxton. Hoxton was quite a area where there was racism, but I have to say, I don't recall growing up any major issues or any point where anybody said anything to me, or, you know, I was called any names in school or anything to do with my color. You know, my school was very multicultural. I had white friends, had black friends. So for me, growing up as a child, I didn't experience anything. Throughout my university, I didn't experience anything. Going into the corporate world, I work in financial services. You know, the top 4 banks in the UK, I didn't experience anything. And I think also because the banks that I've been in have been quite forward thinking. So they already had diversity networks, they had things for ethnic minorities, you know, so they had already started thinking about how they can, you know, break the glass ceiling, you know, open doors, you know, provide opportunities, you know, all that sort of thing. So I think I was quite lucky in my professional life that I was already in an environment where they were already looking at diversity in their institutions.
Right, all right. So in that case, whether to answer the question as to whether or not all of this fuss is necessary, you may not have the same opinion as the people who are out there protesting.
I absolutely don't have the same opinion because I have a different experience. But as I said, it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing to do or it's not necessary, simply because, you know, racism is wrong, you know, and we all know that. But, you know, what I was opposed to at the time when the Black Lives Matters kind of started was this feeling that, you know, if you're not with us, you're against us, you know, white privilege, you know, all these things that I didn't feel were really positive to actually uniting people. In fact, it could actually do the opposite and divide people. So, you know, for me and my experience, especially as I said in my professional life, you know, I have been helped by my line managers who are all white. You know, I've been helped by different people throughout my career. You know, I've never felt like my color has been a blocker. In fact, you know, they were always the ones that were championing me to tell me that I should be doing more because I'm better than, you know, the grade that I was at and things like that. You know, I was in a diversity network when I was working in Lloyd's TSB as it was then, you know, and I started at the lowest level. So I came in just at a university, not knowing what I wanted to do. I went straight in at what they call a band 8, which is a cashier, front office. You know, I was a graduate, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd studied law, but I didn't want to go into law anymore. So I was a bit stuck. And I ended up basically just looking at the internal adverts, and I saw something which looked quite interesting, which was project management. And I thought, oh, that looks interesting. I can do that. I'm going to apply for it. But I didn't really understand the grades. And the grade that I applied for was actually 2 grades higher than what I came in at. But I still applied for it. You know, my manager at the time was like, oh, you know, do you think you can do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm a graduate. I'm quite capable of doing this job. So anyway, they let it through. And I got the job, but little did I know that within that company, like especially within the what they call the branch network, it was very difficult for people to move up levels. So I just come in, I've been in there within 6 months, you know, and I've jumped 2 grades. So people don't often jump 2 grades in 10 years, never mind 6 months. So people look at me like, what did you do? What did you do? I'm like, well, I just applied. I just saw something that I could do, and I didn't see any barriers, if you see what I mean. So my mindset was like, that's a job I can do. I'm going to apply. I'm going to give my best, and I got it. You know, and that's the reason how I ended up, you know, going into head office and doing the project management role in the end. You know, but you know, they saw that as a big thing. So I was basically there to kind of work with the diversity network to show people that actually, you know, if you believe you could do something, you can do something. Don't let anybody put anything in your way, you know. So I believe if you work hard, if you perform, you know, you can get what you want in this life, you know, and no one can stop you from doing that, you know, white or black, you know, and that's always been my mentality, you know. So that was my motivational talk, if you like to say, like, you know, just if you want it, if you believe it, you can achieve it, and don't let anybody get in your way.
You can definitely. It sounds like you've been blessed, fortunate, and when I say lucky, I don't mean lucky in the sense that it wasn't down to your hard work and achievements. It was down to lucky to not run into some of the stoppers that some of us, some others may have experienced. Anyone got anything to say to that? Anyone had any opposing experiences?
Probably I never had nothing that stopped me from achieving, in a sense, what I want. But for me, it's a bit what Yuri said. It's in the sense of you're in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like if you're with the white people, you're not good enough. If you are with the black people, it's like, look at this guy. He thinks he's, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people, if you guys haven't seen some of the shows that we've been doing with Richard, we actually spoke about this, how it's funny that in an African context, even this is in a Palop system, if we're too bright, they call us whites. They don't call us blacks. You know what I mean? If we're dancing, I think Iris can see her, can talk about her. I don't know if Iris has this experience or not, but you know, when I dance, and they see that we are dancing, they think that, oh, look at this guy trying to, like, even for us because we're trying to dance. Because we dance, also, right? For example,
Right.
I'm going to give you an example, simple example. I never went with my cousins. They always invited me to go to the Kizomba parties when I lived in Portugal. I always said no because obviously I had a white dad and I had white friends, and none of them did that. So I didn't felt like I'm not gonna dance Kizomba because I already knew how everyone thought about it, right? But my cousins, they did invite me, but I was nah. Even when I get the teenagers, nah. I went to the south. I went to the south of Portugal, uni, and Kizomba there was women. So I ended up doing it. I got caught up. You know what I mean? By it, because I was going to hip hop parties and I started to do Kizomba. When my cousins start to find out that I actually dance Kizomba, it was a bit, what? What? You know what I mean? Imagine when I start teaching Kizomba when I came to the UK, that was even what, you know what I mean? It's just a tiny example, okay? But it gets worse. It gets worse. That's just my cousins. It's just banter between us, right? I never felt nothing bad with it. But imagine when we go to certain festivals and they look at us, our own brothers, looking at us, you know what I mean? Different. And that sometimes is funny. It's funny. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't put me down because I obviously grew up to be stronger than that. But it happens. You know what I mean? It's funny. What you say?
Well, sorry. Is your mic working there, Iris?
He's muted.
Was he saying that?
Yeah, it's working. I'm just nudging you to say that I'd like to make a comment when you're ready.
Yes. Go ahead, Iris.
No, I understand what Dixon is saying. I mean, that's got a name here. It's called shadeism or colorism. There is that a lot in our communities, in terms of our Black communities, our Afro-Caribbean communities. And it is something that it really needs to be addressed as well, because especially in this Black Lives Matter movement, this is, again, a very touchy subject of people are kind of, making us feel the pressure of, if you're not with us, or whatever, you're a Black person. It's interesting because throughout my career, I'm a Black person when it's convenient. I'm not when I'm a mixed race when it's convenient. And this does exist. And just because I've had a white father or whatever, a white mother, whoever is mixed, it doesn't mean that I have to choose. Starts there. And secondly, it doesn't mean that we have not also encountered a lot of challenges in our lives. The thing is, for me, like I said before, I've had to navigate this thing between Black and white, this bridge, for years on end. So that definitely exists and it's there. In terms of what Angel was saying earlier, I think your comment, Angel, is very your life and what you describe. Actually, it's par excellence, in terms of professional career that you've had, and I think definitely your approach it's part of what make you get there in that way. But I think it's also not a good, at the same time, it becomes not a really good message for me. I think not a very positive message to just say to people, oh, well, if you just have the right approach and you just, do what is right and, kind of believe in it, you're going to get there. Because that is more and more proven over and over again that that's not the case. So I admire that you just navigated that in your life and it didn't affect you. Amazing. But I actually think that's an exception rather than the rule. There's plenty of people with as much talent as you. There's plenty of Black women, Black men with as much talent as you, even more, if not more, or whenever it is more. But they will face these issues, and these issues are real. And it's not just by hard work that you get there. And we all know that there's plenty of witnesses and books and reports and stuff that kind of prove otherwise. So I'm not sure that's the very positive and progressive message to say, because they might give people the wrong message. I think you obviously had an excellence, in your professional life, and we can see it, we've witnessed it, but I'm not sure if that's the right message to really put across, and just by pure hard work you get there, because I don't believe that happens.
I think my interpretation of what Angel was saying was that it's her, that's her personal experience. Whether it's positive or negative to anyone else is another thing, but her experience is her experience, and that's that's all she can say, I suppose. Sorry, let's move on. Let's move along. Richard, just respond to this one quickly before we move on to the next question.
Yeah, sorry, my mic. I think I didn't know that I could unmute it, but I thought Angel's, it's a great discussion point. I think Angel's contribution is really, really interesting topic for this show as well, because I think it also can show that, it's a really positive. It is a really great positive story. It is showing that there are people out there who are there are support structures that she didn't find hindrance, and that hopefully means that others are also experiencing a certain level of equality and they're getting opportunities. And so, like as Mitch was saying, you were around in the 70s and you felt that racism was a lot more apparent and it was a lot more extreme. So obviously, maybe people could generally agree that there's been some improvement. But obviously, I think in talking about the topic, how serious are race issues in the UK, and I think Angel made that point as well, is that, it comes down to the fact that, even just one person, going through a racist experience is not acceptable, because you're talking about, someone's life now being, tarnished by that situation. And the reality is that, based on what we'll discuss later, is that, as a society, there's a social responsibility, there's a personal responsibility, how someone takes on their life and how they try to overcome certain obstacles and things like that. But also there's a social responsibility to say, we're all responsible for what this person went through, and what happens consequentially in their life is an outcome of those experiences. So, if you have someone who's lashing out, who's, for example, in the protest, causing some violence, you have to ask the question: how did that person get to that point? What has brought them to this situation? Because I don't think anyone generally, wants to live like that. So I think it's really positive to hear from Angel that, and obviously that's the experience we want everyone to have. We want everyone to have this experience.
And I just want to say one thing as well. I'm not muted. So I've seen some points about tokenism and things like that. So I just want to clarify that there was no tokenism where I was concerned, because I came in from the bottom. I came in from the lowest level of the bank and I moved myself up to be a senior project manager. And that was through the hard work that I did, but also at the same time, as I said, the support systems. So rather than looking at tokenism doesn't keep you in a job for 8 years plus. Tokenism doesn't keep you in a contract for 2.5 years plus, because you have to perform. If you're not performing, they're not going to pay you that money. And it's simple as that. So I know that I was performing. I know that I'm doing my job well. And I know that because I'm doing my job well, that's why I have it, not because I'm a token black.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that, Angel. Let's move on. The next point here was, why do we need to demand for Black lives rather than everyone's lives? So this was one of my points that I put in here, and I'm just gonna say my piece on this and then I'll put it out to you. So Black Lives Matter. When I first saw the term Black Lives Matter, it was a number of years, because it's not a new thing. This has been around for maybe 3 or 4 years or so. And when I first saw the term, I was like, it did feel like it wasn't very inclusive. And then I thought, well, obviously, there's, because some of the things that have been happening in the media with the police, and people dying, at the hands of the police, or in custody, or on the streets, a lot more, faster rate than white people are dying. Then you do need someone to stand up and say, this isn't right. You do need someone to protest against it. Obviously, you don't need the looting and the rioting, but you definitely need the protest. You need someone to stand up and say no. And when something isn't right, when something has gone too far left or too far right, it needs to be nudged back to the middle. You need to get back to the balance, right? So if something goes to the right, you need to get to the balance. You need to push it to the left. So that force needs to come in the opposite direction. Unfortunately, sometimes that force can be seen extreme, but it definitely you need to apply some. This is what I believe. You may not necessarily agree with me, but you need to apply some force, some pressure to get it back centered. And this is how I see the Black Lives Matters movement. I see it's a force that's pushing the opposite direction to the force that's pushing us to the right. And too far to the right would see us all in chains. So again, another group which would have been seen as terrorists would be the Black Panther group. Okay, that's also an extreme group. Was it necessary? Hell yes. Hell yes. If you look at the the Black Panther movement in isolation, then you like, oh, this is a bunch of terrorists. But in the context of what was going on at that time, it was absolutely necessary, and I believe that they made some definite positive changes that we've been able to benefit from today. And this is why I personally believe that we need Black Lives Matter, but obviously we don't need the rioting and the looting and all this kind of thing. That's what I've got to say on the matter. Anyone else?
Ladies first.
Go, Iris. You there?
You're muted yourself.
Okay, yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely needed. In terms of the Black Panther, there's a couple of things I think. There's let's not forget how things are perceived in the media and how we are fed by media into how these groups appear to be. Black Panther, it was not in, it was a group that was aggressive in what they were after, but very few people, for example, knew that they run free clinics for the neighborhood, and they were actually helping people with people's health. All they remember is that Black Panther, they were so aggressive and so extreme and armed and whatever not, because this is what it was put out to the media to be as well. In terms of what you said about Black Lives Matter, I think it needs to happen. Yeah, I haven't seen. There haven't been much of a movement. There have been completely peaceful that actually generated change. Even Martin Luther King said the same thing. I don't have his quote with me. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to prepare all of this today. You just asked me today to come in. But even Martin Luther King, I've read it, that he even said that, yes, we should do all in peace. We should all movements with peace. But actually, we need to push the envelope to actually generate actual change. So it's unfortunate that it has to be always through violence that change actually is implemented. But unfortunately, it seems to be the history of humanity. I wish it wasn't. I wish we knew how to implement change without violence, but it doesn't seem to be. And I hope as well that in the future, with all this COVID, we've generated shows that we are talking. We have never done this before. And there's plenty of other things that are happening in the same manner. So we are collaborating more, we are talking more, we are discussing more. I don't believe that when there is issues in society, the more that you ignore it, the more it festers. And when it festers, it just rots, So things you need to face conflict and right in the face, and actually deal with it and discuss it, learn how to talk about it without fear of repercussion. So this is very privileged place to be.
On that note, Iris, one of the comments, very interesting comment here was made that I think we need to discuss as well, on topic, of course. Someone said here, Kathleen, demand for Black Lives Matter, because remember we're talking about whether or not we think this is necessary for this kind of thing. She's saying demand for Black Lives Matter sounds like we want, sorry, where is it? I lost that's right. Black Lives Matter sounds like people are looking for privileges for Black people rather than equality. That's how it can be perceived. And I can see that because this is the first thing that popped into my head when I first saw the notion, yeah. But when I saw it in the context of what it was created for, there were flashing blue lights, and there was a stretcher, and there was a dead body being carried into the back of an ambulance. Now, in that context, yes, it's necessary, because if the person who was holding the gun and firing the bullets valued that person's life more, that person would not be killed, because there were other options. And this is why I think that you can see that the words Black Lives Matter and take it out of context and actually think that people are looking for privilege rather than equality. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
But in this context, we're talking about it in the context of someone. Yeah, I was going to say, in the context of someone being held on the floor under someone's knee until they die. In that context, yes, there is a place for Black Lives Matter, in my personal opinion. So it needs to be in context.
Yeah, the thing is, there's been blue flashlights for a very long time.
Yeah,
it's not, the blue flashlights have not appeared 2 weeks ago or a month ago. There's been blue flashlights for a long time. You know, this kind of oppression is being done for a very long time. So yes, when Black Lives Matter, then yes, all lives will matter. See what I mean? So it's to think of, I'm sorry, it's just rubbish. People dwell a little bit deeper. I think to think otherwise, I think it's just rubbish, because it shows that people don't want to dwell into the same way that, you know, I'm sure that Angel had a lot of hard work and being intelligent, being a smart woman and getting to where she wants. She's still aware of other brothers and sisters that are getting the same treatment or the same opportunities. So just because I've had a good life, it doesn't mean I'm not aware of my brother and sister that is actually being oppressed against. But if I'm staying quiet, then I'm just saying, yeah, that's fine. That's why that experiment with that woman, that Jane Elliott educator, it's still relevant today. I mean, she did the experiment in 1974 or 72 or whatever it was. Do you know what I'm saying? And still, and the same. What does Chris Rock say in his shows? He said, well, you know, I've asked somebody if they would change their life for mine to be on my shoes for a week or whatever, and they said they wouldn't want to do that, and I'm rich. He's a black rich man, and still a white person would not want to be in his shoes. You know, there's a reason for that, and people know it. So
I think what's interesting, you know, obviously, you know, this situation is happening when social media is very strong, and that leads to great stuff like this, the conversations that we have now. But also it shows that social media also has a darker side where things are allowed to, happen. And as you say, as Iris, also in society, there's this allowing things to carry on and fester creates these kinds of scenarios where there is, anger and animosity and, just a lot of emotion around what we saw in America and stuff like that. I think that for me, one of the most succinct ways that I saw it explained, it was a really nice thing. Dixon and I talked about that. It was a quote for the Bible, and I'm not Christian, but it was Luke 15, and it was Jesus giving an example of being a shepherd and having 100 sheep, and one of the sheep gets lost, and Jesus goes off to find the sheep, and the other 99 sheep say, "Oh, but what about us? Don't we matter?" And he says, "Yes, you matter, but you're not the one in danger. Is that one sheep in danger right now that we have to the group?"
Exactly. Yes.
And I think it ties well with what Iris is saying, is that when one group is marginalized or not appreciated or not accepted or discriminated against, all lives don't matter now, because it could be you tomorrow. It's just what's fashionable now, what's okay, what are we going to put up with? You know what I mean? And I think also it's, what happened on that same week of what happened with George Floyd, where we saw the incident in the park, Central Park, between a white lady and an African-American man.
Amy Cooper case.
The scenario where, a white woman threatened a black man, saying, "I'm going to call the police and say specifically you're an African-American man."
That's the one with the dog, the woman with the dog. Yeah.
Yes. Amy Cooper. People in the audience, you haven't checked it. It's called. Her name is Amy Cooper. Just type that and go and see. It has a video in her using her privilege against another human being.
So I think that's showing, that people are aware that there is this disparity. People are aware that, in that case, African Americans in America, this is constantly happening to them. You know what I mean? So we can't deny it. You know what I mean? And you can see it ingrained in society. So it has to be addressed.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Let me play some music, and then we'll move on to.
I just wanted to add something before you change subject.
Sorry, Edwin.
Just one little thing. It's just literally important to understand. It's like, because one thing that started in America, you know what I mean, and now people in Europe are like, but that was there. Really, it's like it might sound like an excuse, but to be honest, it's like it's enough. You know what I mean? It's enough, and it's enough for the sense of, I think. Well, I don't know about Angel, but I know that I did. I'm sure that Iris did, and I'm sure that you did, Mitch, and I'm even sure that Richard did, suffered some of it. You know what I mean? But I'm talking about, that silent racism. You know what I mean? How people look at you. I'm going in the street. I have to change lanes so that you don't feel threatened. When we say these things, it sounds like colloquial conversation. It's not. You know what I mean? And I think the most important thing is when I have to, and I've been doing that since, because a lot of people message me and ask me about this. Oh, why Black Lives Matter? Shouldn't be all lives matter. So I have to explain people where the Black Lives Matter comes from. I have to explain to them this is a movement from America. It started there with this and this. I literally have to explain them that. And then I have to explain how this transports to Europe. You know what I mean? How some of these people are oblivious to what some of us suffer probably every day of our lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's really important that we explain first that issue, because a lot of people are complaining about, like Richard was saying, are complaining about this, are complaining about that. I'm like, that's a headache, because we have to explain what the reason about that to come across a point that also happens in Europe, right? No, really. Iris already say I don't agree. Okay, don't worry. What I'm trying to say is
no. I agree with everything you're saying. I just don't agree with when you're saying that we have to explain. It's I saw this lady on TV, this Dr. Shola. I think you've seen her on morning TV, and she's been in a few things as well. And she said, it's not my responsibility as a Black woman to have to educate white people about what the kind of privilege that they have, and they put the kind of oppression they put on me as a Black person. It's not on you to educate others. No. If they are interested and they are interested in developing their own humanity, they should go and educate themselves.
I'm just saying this is really important, and this is really important because right now one of the things that's happening online, and I see this everywhere, and I'm just obviously just watching. It's really funny how everyone is blocking everyone on Facebook. Everybody, you posted that, block. You posted that, block. I hate you. Guess what? I am the best instigator. Every time I see people say, "Oh, my friend just posted that," I post like, "Block it." I posted everything. I'm saying that, but I'm not blocking anyone yet. You know what I mean? I'm watching. I want to see what are these people. I want to know who are these people before I think about it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these people dance. They come to my events. They're posting this stuff. I want to see their faces when they come to my events. That Kizomba fix.
All right.
So, what I'm trying to say, Iris, is this. It's not my job to teach.
No, I know where.
Here I am. People the one to learn.
Play the music.
I'm just saying, I'm offering my help. That's in my opinion.
All right. We're gonna play some music. We're gonna lighten the mood a little bit. We're gonna do something, that's gonna just lift our spirits a little bit, and then we're gonna go in again. Okay, here we go.
Casamento é uma aliança entre nós dois. Ela é sagrada. É bem mais do que acordar ela do teu bem. Viver como se fosse o refém. Ela é um pacto pra aceitar que faças parte da minha vida. Tens de provar que és merecedora. Não são os peixes que me convencem, nem tampouco vivo de aparência. Quero ser um verdadeiro pai para os meus filhos. Não é negócio, procura seu sócio. Não é brincadeira, não é vagabandeira. Casamento é pra vida inteira, é pra vida inteira. Não é negócio, procura seu sócio. Não é brincadeira, não é vagabandeira. Casamento é pra vida inteira, é pra vida inteira. Quer desde cumprir as tuas obrigações. Vou juntar as dias pra fazer a apresentação e pedir autorização para que a bênção possa morar no nosso lar. E depois de tudo, vim toda arrasta pé, conhecer as famílias tudo bem. E para que tudo entre nós seja dentro dos padrões. Ai meu bem, ai meu bem. Não é negócio, não procuras um sócio. Não é brincadeira, não é vagabandeira. Casamento é pra vida inteira, é pra vida inteira. Não é negócio, procuras um sócio. Não é brincadeira, não é vagabandeira. Casamento é pra vida inteira, é pra vida inteira.
Shout out to everyone watching and commenting. Kicking off on the comments as well, actually. Gotta be careful here. It's meant to be a peaceful show. Peaceful, but yet serious. Peace. Okay. The next topic, guys, have you got your mics unmuted? Please unmute your mics now because we're going to speak. The next topic I have is, does the level of unrest in this country or warrant what's going on? I mean, do we actually need this level of craziness that's going on in the streets? Is it necessary?
So I think there needs to be an awareness of what's going on, right? And the protest has definitely helped to create that awareness. It's got the conversations going, as always have said. It's made people want to find out more about, what they can do to support the cause. There was people from all different backgrounds protesting. So yes, I think it's definitely needed. And also, when you have these types of protests, there's always going to be an offshoot of people that are going to use it to cause trouble, and that's just the way it is. But I think, 90%, 95% of the people, from what I can see, did a peaceful protest. For me, and I think this is one of the questions that I pose, is like, okay, so we've done the protest, what's next? Because otherwise all of this is going to be in vain. This is the opportunity now. Politicians are listening, people in power are listening, people in institutions are listening. So this is a time to say, what is it that we want? So people would say, okay, my experience is exceptional, and that may be the case, but actually what can people learn from my experience to make other people's experiences the same or better than what I've had growing up? There's things that maybe you can learn. Like I said, my company, they had diversity strategies. They had people championing, race relations. We worked with other financial institutions. That's something that more organizations should be doing, right? So that was the financial services. What are we doing in legal? What are we doing in the health? What are we doing in the psychology? All of the other kind of elitist organizations as well, where it's very difficult for people of color to get ahead. Those are the organizations that need to be really looking at what is their approach to diversity, and why is it that their companies are not multicultural? What is the blocking point? And that's a reason why I think, within my company, race, I never felt that race was an issue, because, they were aware of it, and awareness does a lot. Education.
Some organizations are doing this very, very well. As you just said there, like a lot of the big banks are very mature in their approach to diversity. And I was I'm studying for AWS cloud and various other cloud technologies. And I went onto my AWS account, Amazon cloud account, the other day. I logged on, and the first thing I saw on the home page where you log in was a big black banner saying Black Lives Matter. We support the Black Lives Matter initiative. And I'm like, wow, that's the biggest cloud computing organization in the world, bigger than Microsoft, bigger than all the rest of them, are doing this. And to see that, there's really kind of like paving the way forward for the others to follow. Because if you and this is another point that should really be on the agenda. If you're not seen to be supporting it, you can be easily seen to be against it. And a lot of people would argue that you are against it if you're not supporting it. And that's a whole other question itself, which should probably be on the list, and maybe we can pick this up now. But is actually, let me just put that to you. If you're not for it, can you be fairly claimed to be against it?
I think Angel made that point. Maybe Angel, you go first.
No, I was definitely. I think that's an assumption, because I think people need education. Sometimes people don't know how to act. People don't know where to go. People need advice. People need support on how to, bring diversity into the workplace. So just because necessarily they're not showing it outwardly doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to do it. So sometimes it takes people within the organizations that they're in to be the instigators and go to the chairperson and say, look, this is what we want to do. You put together your business case, whatever you need, and most of the time they'll lap it up and they'll take it because it looks good for them and it looks good for their company. But it takes the people within that company, because that's how it happened within Lloyds TSB, within that company, to see that something is going wrong and to say, we're going to make a difference, we're going to make a change, and we're going to put processes and procedures in place to make it to give the support to the people that need it, and it takes people in the company to do something about it. We can't wait for governments and whatever to put in policies. We need to make that change. There's a phrase that's been going around, if you want to see the change, you need to be the change, so
I like that one.
I think what's also very interesting, with the whole, when you get to these very, like we said, emotive subjects and difficult topics that affect people strongly, even coronavirus or, this issue around race relations and discrimination. Even I will say, you can see we have this amazing forum right now, platform, and even, friends between ourselves and in our community, you can see that it's difficult to discuss this. Even like the chat can get heated and stuff. but there definitely needs to be a certain level of empathy across, the spectrum, because you want people to be able to come to the table and engage and be involved. And, people, like, I think that's interesting what Angel said, and it comes back also a little bit with Iris and with Dixon about whose responsibility is it? What's the social responsibility? But I do feel that maybe there are people who don't feel like their opinion is warranted, or don't feel like they can contribute anything, or maybe they have anything valid to say, or so. And like you say as well, I mean, in terms of people's involvement, obviously there is a coronavirus. So I think that there just needs to be obviously a certain level of understanding. But at the end of the day, it does come back to what Angel says, which is that it's about, as an individual, standing up and saying, okay, what sort of thing can I do to represent the values that I hold, dear to myself, and I think, should be present in the community? And how can you make those little steps forward? You know what I mean? And I think even just a participation in something like this from everyone, having dialogue, is groundwork for that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm going to push on to the next topic. I know some of you probably want to continue on that one, but I'm going to push on to the next one, because the next one is I like this one. And this one is about the statues. Statues have been getting pulled down, and people are going out and defending them, the EDL in particular. And the reason why they're getting pulled down is because they're of people who were supporting racism, or even further than that, actually trading slaves. I can tell you about something that happened here in Brixton, where I grew up. They wanted to erect a statue of Christopher Columbus, because Christopher Columbus was a hero, depending on what part of the world you're from, because he was supposedly the person who discovered the West Indies. All right. And there was it was outrage. There was outrage amongst the Jamaican community that they wanted to put a statue of Christopher Columbus up. And I think it was the first time the government realized that there was another side to this story that wasn't appreciated, because Christopher Columbus is seen to be the person that, even though he didn't do anything himself, he opened the gates of hell to the Americas and the West Indies. And it actually paved the way for the Europeans to come over and basically carnage the whole of the indigenous people that were there, and the rest is history. So that's the reason why they didn't want the statue. And if it was there now, it would probably be torn down right now. But yeah, that I think, to me, that would answer the question as to why we think that the statues are being attacked. But do you think it's necessary, guys, to pull these statues or deface these statues?
Well, it's symbolic, isn't it? I mean, we are, I'd like to think that we are evolving as people, as human beings, and as societies. So if we are evolving as human beings and as people and as societies, then there are things around us that are not necessary anymore. It's a little bit what Trevor Noah said on his program. The pest went around everywhere, but you don't see statues of rats or So it's but it's a little bit more than that. It is very symbolic, So what does that do? Or what does symbolism do? It really helps you to accept that, oh God, okay, they are listening to me. And let's just also mention that, just like the example that you said in Brixton, the statue in Bristol, there had been petitions upon petitions to bring that statue down, so this is not something. This is not something that it was just suddenly they decided to put a statue down. They asked by the right channels. They wanted to have that conversation, and they were denied the conversation. We don't want to talk about this. We don't want to listen to you. So, of course, if you are oppressed, if you're not listened to, if you're not given a platform, what is left to do? You have to do it by force. It's unfortunate, but people did try to do it the right way. So it is very symbolic. And I think, to answer your question, it is necessary in Britain and all around the world, because it's important that people realize, to bring awareness to a group that is being, or groups that are being oppressed. And this should be everyone's responsibility, not just Black people doing their work well or whatever, but everyone's responsibility. Because if I see someone on the street that is not being treated properly, or doesn't have a house, or is looking for shelter, I feel for that person. I'll say, how can I help? Can I do something to this person? Can I give 2 hours a week to my church and, give food or whatever, or cook for them? What can I do? And this has got to be, I think, our thinking as human beings more. It's everyone's responsibility. If I see Richard being oppressed, it's nothing to do with me, so I shouldn't get involved. No, it's
And
everyone's
that makes
responsibility.
you part of the problem. That makes you part of the problem.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Maybe Dixon can.
I do recall.
Yeah, maybe Dixon can share, because he made a great kind of analysis on this the other day.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's go this. First and foremost, my views on this, and a lot of people probably don't know. I actually got interviewed by ITV.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Iris.
Okay.
Edson speaking.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know. I actually got interviewed by ITV News on this as well.
Okay.
But it's like, first and foremost, I think I grew up in Portugal, and whether people want it or not, I believe that heritage and monuments and stuff like that, I think that's something to be respected. Okay, if we're doing a peaceful protest, if you're doing that, that's vandalism, right?
Yeah.
So I said my piece about how I think that people that are doing the protests, they should focus on the protest, not like the same thing, not on doing lootings, not on creating the protest into a riot. And I said my piece about it, how I think that in order to change things, these protests need to happen, but not just stay there with the protests. We literally need to start tackling the system, because like people said in Bristol was manic. Why? Bristol actually has a policy of not having statutes about slave trade. They actually have something like that in Bristol, which forbids that. But they have the Colston statue there. And for 40 years.
In Bristol, they still have the trading post. In the town centre, they have the trading post where the slaves used to be shackled and sold in the market.
A lot of people
still there now.
The Bristol situation is, if they have that policy, so they have a missing loop there, which they are failing to acknowledge and to remove. Obviously, on that note, obviously the people took in their own action and they did it themselves.
Yeah.
I'm actually very glad that the protest that we did in Plymouth was really well organized. You know what I mean? And I'm part of the future community that it's going to lead the Black Lives Matter, which we probably are going to be more as a BAME network more.
So you're going to be the riot general.
There's a lot of things I can explain regarding how actually Black Lives Matter in America is literally just for Black people. Nothing else, no one else. But we're not going to go there because it's good. But regarding the statues, you know what I mean? In Plymouth, I was really happy that we didn't, we stick to our protest. We did our peaceful stuff around, you know what I mean? And we didn't do nothing. No vandalism. We kept
peaceful.
Peaceful. The police supported us on it. You know what I mean? We had one little itsy-bitsy incident that was resolved by the police straight away. What is funny is the far-right people in Plymouth, lots of lads were in our memorials waiting for us. You know what I mean? And funny thing is, people that decided to go there, because the Hoe is a place where people go. Cheers, Angel.
Cheers. Yeah.
Like to go for chill, and where you have all the memorials, including Francis Drake's statue. But let's not go there. Again, these guys were literally harassing people that were just passing by with their boards, but they weren't going to do nothing to the statues. They were just going to the Hoe to stand on the grass and chill for the rest of the evening. You know what I mean? Even a lady, who, and thank God, a white lady did this. Praise. She reported these guys because they were hassling everyone You know what I mean? And inclusive, you have a guy, there's actually a video of a guy who was on that group photo calling some of the black kids that were going around, calling them, go back to your country, you have caste.
This was just the other day, right?
Last Sunday, my friend. Last Sunday.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that it's like what we're trying to tackle here, and this is the funny thing. Some of this stuff, some of this little jokes that people think it's okay, right? Joke. This is when the situation that happened in George Floyd, right now here, it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Regarding the statues, I think we need to change the curriculums in school, add the information, add British Black history, so that people are aware this statue right here is of this gentleman who did this, this, and this. But he also did this and this.
Exactly.
When, if people are still proud of him,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Keep this statue there.
You know, that's the point. That's the point that I thought was very interesting. What Dixon said is that, obviously, he's saying those statues were celebrated at a time for a certain thing. And now with, like Iris said, the values of what we have today, does it still represent who we are? Do we still want to celebrate that person? Who were they really? Were they just complicit, or were they actually actively involved in that? And is that okay? And should the statue say that? Should it say Francis Drake, whatever, but X, Y, and Z as well, And I think it is important to recognize what Angel said as well, though, because we are living in this kind of consumer, rapid information society. And the story of today, 6 months later, is it just going to be another news headline, or are we really going to get proper progressive change? You know what I mean? Meaningful change. And I think that, yes, we want, things that represent our values today. We want to celebrate, the contribution, even, for example, of Black communities to British culture, the Windrush generation, things like this. We can talk about that as well. But, yes, we want those statues taken down, but we don't want it to be a token effort or something just to, put people to one side. It can be part of the part of the reform, it's just one part of the
a reflection of the actual change. And one example, because Iris used the word symbolism, and I think that was quite poignant to me because it reminded me of what happened in Iraq. A statue came down there, didn't it? Of somebody who was very feared by the West overall in general.
Everyone was saying that was savage.
And also in
everyone in Europe.
Yeah, everyone was saying it was savage, but no,
that's savage. How dare they? Oh my God! And now suddenly,
nobody had any objections to Saddam Hussein's statue coming down. Though no one had any objections to that, and there was also no objections to Colonel Gaddafi's statue coming down. Both very good symbols. But it's a symbol of change, and it's rather than just making it look like there's change, it's actually change that caused those to come down. So I hope
to everyone
that's going to be the same thing happening here.
Isn't it strange that history? Obviously, everybody has that side of history, but we all live in the community. We all live within the society. You know what I mean? I think it's important to tell the story, at least. I mean, how it was. I know it's not easy to look back to your own country that you love. You know what I mean? I think it's not easy, but one of the things that was done a few years ago, it was propaganda. You know what I mean? In order for people to love their country, in order for people to fight for their country. Ways, thank God. And I think it's a thing that people need to be open to for that. You know what I mean? And that's why I was telling Iris that, it's a bit hard work, but I think it's a big headache because it costs me to speak about it. But that's why if people are opening to themselves to hear more about it, I will give them my time. But if people are not happy, I'm not going to be bothered. You know what I mean? But I think it's a tricky situation. But I think together and with the right information and the right re-education on the system, I think that we can go forward. That's my people want peace.
Okay.
That's peace.
All right. We're going to play a bit of music, and then we're going to come back and talk about what we actually want to see, what changes we want to see in law enforcement. Okay, on the other side of this.
Mitch, we don't hear the music, bro. We hear you eating peanuts.
Ah, that better.
No music, bro. You give
All
me
right.
silent treatment,
Guys,
bro.
could you not hear the music? Could you not hear the music I was playing just now?
You didn't.
Well, in the background.
You could not hear it.
No.
Oh wow.
I can't hear it either.
Okay. And but you heard it the time before. Earlier on, you could hear the music.
Correct.
Thanks,
Right.
Wendy. Thanks, Wendy.
Coco says nothing, man.
I don't. All right. Good thing. Yes, it's not DJ Mitch. Okay, it's not DJ Mitch. Just as well.
By the way, I just want to
All right.
say shout out for Gario, the best home DJ in the building, is watching us.
Yeah. The king of Kizomba KO is here.
WB.
I'm gonna try to when he was winning.
All right, Iris came off and she's gone into the audience and she's watching the rest of the show from the audience. What happened, Iris? What happened?
Lost you.
Okay, so I don't know what happened with my music there, but let's move on to the next topic. So the next one was about law enforcement and their interaction with the public. Like I said, when I was growing up, I experienced a lot of racism in lots of different shapes and forms, and a lot of that was from law enforcement, from the police, firsthand. And it was also a common theme throughout all of my peers I grew up with at the time. So it was common knowledge, it was expected, and it was part of normal life, actually was part of normal life. It's very subtle now, it's not so obvious, and it's not so common. It's definitely improved, but it's still there. Guys, if you think anything needs to change, what do you think needs to change in terms of law enforcement?
I think it's about these sorts of events that happen. They give us a very sharp opportunity to reflect on things and systems and how we approach things. And obviously, it's going to come down to clearly issues around law enforcement, because that's to do with power, that's to do with responsibility, And I think that there was an issue the other day. That's why we added this to the conversation with a black couple here in the UK. They were moving some cars from one side of the road on their street to the other side outside their house, and a cop car went past here in the UK. It was in Suffolk, I think, and the police stepped out and wanted to ask them some questions. And whether that issue was anything to do with race or not, even if you put that aside, just the whole interaction of law enforcement or the police, which is supposed to be by consent in this country, how they engage with those members of the public shows, very, very little level of respect of the fact that they're mutual citizens and the fact that the police are supposed to be more guardians rather than enforcers in this country.
Yeah, protectors.
Exactly. And what was specifically said in that situation, when the couple asked, well, why are you stopping us? Why are you asking us this information? They said, well, because we can, and that reflects a lot on how these types of situations can go. Mistrust between, the government and its institutions and the public, right? And how that can breed this feeling of discrimination and stigma and prejudice. Not giving those people, members of the public, proper discussion and recourse and consideration, And I think that probably hits a lot of people as well, because it shows that, okay, how are the police being trained? Who is on the force? What type of community policing is there? For me, in my area in South London, maybe 10 years ago, we used to have a lot of police walking here in the local area. They knew people knew them. We don't have that type of policing anymore, And I can say, just as a regular citizen, if I feel like there's an issue in my community, the police won't listen, They won't listen. It's not important enough, So I think that shows on a basic level, there's a gap between law enforcement and the community,
Yeah, big gap. And I think the kind of things that can be done to improve that as well is just to change the perception that the children have towards the police, the young people have towards the police, because the young people, like I was in the 70s and the 80s, are afraid of the police. I'm still not necessarily afraid, but I'm still worried about my safety when the police are in close proximity to me. That's not right. I shouldn't feel unsafe because there's a police officer close by, but it makes me feel very uneasy. Yeah, and that's just purely from experience, right? Especially in an airport, when I see the police walking around with guns, it makes me very nervous, because I know 100% they are more likely to use it against me than a white person. So that's makes me feel unsafe. And the kind of things that can make things that can change that and people's perception is by having or promoting situations where the police can at least try to be friendly to the community, to the public. Yeah, I saw a recent video in America where a young black kid was playing basketball in the street, shooting hoops. He set up his own hoop on a lamppost or something, and he was shooting hoops in the street. And then a police car pulled up, and the guy came out with, a typical scenario. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to watch this. He strolled up and he said, we've had some call from the neighbors saying you're playing out here. And then the police officer said, I don't really have a problem with it. Give me the ball. The boy gave him the ball, and the police started dribbling basketball and started shooting hoops with the kid in the street.
I've seen that one.
I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to building bridges, building relationships. Yeah, don't let it always be. Show them that you are human as well. Show them that you can, you can be a friendly face. And we need more of that. We need the police are actually have done that in little spurts. Like they set up a boxing club in Brixton, and they help fund that, and they do little things like that every once in a while. But I think we need to see the police being friendly. We need to see more smiling faces.
Right,
and
true.
Children react positively.
Such a basic thing, like you say, the police are with us, part of our community. What I mean?
I was gonna say, I don't know if Angel wants to say something, since she's the only lady. I'm gonna give you my perspective from.
Why are you saying lady, man? She's good.
Hey, listen, wait. Hey, remember what we said about tokenism. Hey, be careful what you're doing here. Remember, tokenism. You don't appreciate that around here.
Yeah, you go for it.
You sure?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I'm going first. I was gonna say, Mitch, here's the funny thing what you say about that. And I was gonna say regarding the police in Portugal, you know what I mean? I always, all my life, I've been a law-abiding citizen. In Portugal, you know, I don't fear the police, but if I see them, it's like I follow them.
You're worried. You're concerned. Yeah, you're concerned.
I'm not worried. I follow them. I just need to know where are they? Where are they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in the back of our minds, we have to be aware.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Here's the good part. Living in the UK, and I must say, and I try to give that example to my friends in Portugal. They go ballistic. They say the UK is too nice. In here, at least, I don't feel threatened personally. You know what I mean? I see the police officer as someone that comes here to de-escalate the situation. You know what I mean? And I don't feel that, you know what I mean? That problem. I don't feel it.
It's worse than where you're from.
But, and here comes the big but, which is, I've been racial profiled before. And it was a bit, and that was a bit hardcore because I got racial profiled in the same night twice. Imagine something new in the UK, something new in the situation. And I was like, imagine police, and I don't feel that. You know what I mean? I don't feel it. Iris,
it's worse than where you're from.
Mute Facebook, Iris. Here comes the big but, which is I've been racial profiled before. You got. And it was a bit, and that was a bit hardcore because I got racial in the same night twice.
Something's got a bit of right edge. Irish has just come on, and we've had a little go back.
I told her to mute the Facebook. She has to mute the Facebook. So,
yeah, she's got Facebook running. That's what it is.
We just listen from one thread because the stream.
Irish, if you can hear us. Iris, if you can hear us, close your Facebook, and then let us know you've closed Facebook, and then we'll unmute you again because we can hear your Facebook feed. Carry on, Edson.
I'm just saying, and this is, I think, the issue when the issues start, and I'm sure that in London as well, it happens a lot.
Can you hear me?
The racial profile. Yeah. Okay, the racial profile. I think that's an issue that happens a lot. And, I mean, in Portugal it happens a lot, obviously, but in UK, what I hear and what I researched, because obviously information is power, and I'm looking at it, and I see that happens a lot as well in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think obviously more in London than probably here, but I suffered that a lot, and that doesn't make me feel good, to be honest, because I had actually good standing officers said, "Oh, we heard someone with your description looks like this," and I'm like, "Okay. Can you just come outside so they can check you on CCTV?" All right. I just came from a night out, and I come out. They did the check. No, it's not you. They saw my hands. I said, "No, I didn't have a fight. Thank you very much. I'm going back to my flat." And a second van rocks in, and I have two totally different police officers.
Same again.
Like, show me your hands. I was like, yeah. I'm like,
yeah.
You know, I'm like, I didn't go aggressive. I just said, watch your tone, because this gentleman just made me the same question, and he was nice. He talking, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, obviously I want to sleep in my flat, so I had to kind of comply.
Right.
And this is the things that kind of need to change. Natalia said something about in the comments about how the police need to be kind of mentally, like she said, the police need to have a mental check before getting this job.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's about exactly consideration, and you know,
I think it's about time. It's about time that it's like, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't have to deal with these things. I pay my bills. I pay taxes. I'm being confused with someone else, and then people, if you comply, they won't do nothing to you.
So actually, there's an interesting thing that I heard on another talk show, or I think it might have been on the news or something, around the police. And the thing about the police is all about power, right? So even if it's you know, a black policeman could do the same, a white policeman, but you know, there's also this element of power, you know, because being a police gives you that authority over others. So some people abuse that authority, you know, some people take it to another level, you know. So they were saying, like, you know, the way that they had the knee on his neck, you know, that was a sign of power. You know, his glasses didn't even slip. You know, he was there with
he was tripping off that. Yeah, he was tripping off that feeling while he was there. He loved it.
Do you see what I mean? But you know, obviously, it wasn't just about white, because I think one of the officers was Chinese, another one was mixed or something like that. So you know, it was a power thing as well. So we also, I'm agreeing with the point around, you know, checks around the people, because in some cases people get into these jobs because they want to exert power over others.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And also,
they're in the job for the wrong reason. Yeah.
Yes.
The police, you know, they're like you say, they have a certain level of authority and power that we allow them to have, you know, because they're supposed to protect us. So they need to be held in check. And obviously, this whole thing has been about also accountability, you know. And I think the thing is, yes, they are putting themselves in difficult positions, sometimes putting their life on the line to defend their communities. But like you said, in terms of, you know, I think it's a constant thing, that because you can have a police officer who starts out with the right attitude, with the right mindset, but they're human beings. They can also go through a lot, and they might not be, they might be in the force for 15 years and get to a point where they're not doing the job appropriately, you know, because of what they've been through, what they might have experienced, what they're going through in their daily lives. And like you say, they can have that switch where they lose the empathy, you know, they lose that sense of humanity, the sense of care when people come, you know, they come into interaction with people. And I think, you know, that is a really important point, what you guys said. If you want to talk about reform in law enforcement and stuff, I think the two great points people were making on the comments: being part of the community, not just being involved only when there's crime, you know what I mean? And also what you guys are saying, it's about we all must practice, we all have to train if we're related to dancers to keep up our skills. We all have to reflect on how we're performing with our communities. So should there be those sorts of support, you can call it basically support structures for the police themselves to check, you know, are they doing their job correctly to the best of their ability and appropriately? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we got time for one more question, one more points on here.
I'm gonna try to play music.
So I'm gonna try the music, and hopefully you can hear it this time. I want a thumbs up though. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. Okay, here we go.
Richard.
No one can hear nothing.
You know what? Wait a second.
I think it's something to do with your connection, Mitch, because we heard it for a second. I can hear it like a little bit in the background.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
You ready?
Back to the questions then. No music.
Wait, let's do this. Okay.
So you cannot hear my music?
No.
Maybe.
Can you hear my music now? Wow. That means this whole time you haven't heard the music. Okay, that's a shame. It's a good thing. This is a talk show rather than a music show. Hi, Iris, you're back now. This is a talk show.
Welcome back.
My music isn't working. We're back, Iris. We're back. We've got one more topic. What's that? Hey.
Now we hear it. Now it's working.
Now we're talking. Hey, here we go.
I like it.
Okay.
Cool. Very resourceful.
All right. So,
Oh my God.
turn it off. I'm trying to speak. We're talking now. Control the music. Control it. Thank you.
Nice one. Good one. Good one.
All right. So the last point here is what do we want to see? What change do we want to see? Top down, ground up. So basically, I'll go first on this, and you get an idea of what kind of response I'm looking for. So what change I want to see from the top down is I want to see recognition. I want to see I want to see recognition from the authorities that there is an issue, because in my fault and fix mentality, to fix an issue, the first thing you need to do is identify that there is an issue in the first place. If you don't identify it as an issue, there's nothing you can do to fix it. So I want to see the authorities in power to recognize there is something that needs to be addressed. And then once they've recognized it, then they'll actually start doing something about it. And these protests, whether it's violent or otherwise, are a good way of allowing the government to see that. From the ground up, from us as human beings, as normal citizens, Black lives matter, but it's not only non-whites that need to hear that Black lives matter. We as non-whites need to understand this as well, and we need to stop killing each other in the way that we've been doing over the last years, or not just the last few years, but we're to blame for Black people dying in the streets, as well as the authorities. We are to blame, and we need to stop killing each other. We need to value each other's lives as much as anyone else, and we need to try and promote and raise and give each other opportunities rather than trying to fight each other. So that's the changes I want to see from the top down and from the bottom up. Over to you guys.
Can I go?
Anyone. Go, Iris. Go, Iris.
God, man, this technology.
Go, Iris. While your sound is working, go.
I know, right? I know. This technology drives me mental. I'm adapting. I'm evolving with the technology. So, gosh, man. But yeah, what changes I need to see? Definitely, I agree with you. Accept that there is a problem, so we can actually start facing the problem and addressing it. I think there should be a regular yearly or quarterly discussion on a higher level, in terms of government, institutions, corporations sort of coming together, be it the city hall, be whatever it is, to actually discuss it, not just leave it to when something like this happens, when there's a protest or when there's Black History Month or something, and that's when they talk about it. To create a regular discussion about the subject. From the bottom up, I think that we as human beings really, really need to connect a lot more to each other and to our communities. Sounds really old-fashioned, sounds really like it's, but I work with a school. We're doing a lot of online work now, and a lot of the students are Afro-Caribbean with the school that I work with. It's called Akomasa Arts. And they are doing amazingly well. The kids, it's a youth school. It's from 6 to 16-year-olds. They are doing amazingly well because we've been working with them for the last 5 years and really discussing with the kids, empowering the kids. And of course, the results are on show. So we need to connect more to our communities, I think. And last but not least, the curriculum at schools needs to include what we call Black history. So decolonize the curriculum as ASAP. It's so important, and that's at all matters, not just the Black, but the Asian, the Chinese history, whatever that has been involved with the British history. It's all our history. So I think the curriculum, school curriculum, needs to be decolonized.
Right. Thank you, Iris.
For myself,
Angel?
sorry.
No, go on, Richard. Go.
Go on, go.
For myself, what I can contribute is that, I came to the UK as 12, 13-year-old. So my sort of education was kind of split a bit. But I will say that, through my personal circumstance, I had a huge culture shock coming to the UK and experiencing what I experienced with Brixton gangs, Peckham gangs, living in, massive housing estates on Tulse Hill and stuff like that. And I think what people is that, no matter how people start out in what socioeconomic group they start out in, as Mitch said, every child needs to have the ability to grow up valuing their life, feeling like they have a chance to achieve something. And from my experience living in London and going to those schools, because of what happened, my mother getting sick or whatever the situation was, I was able to come through that. That was very difficult. I feel like I was able to come through that because I had perspective. I came from South Africa. I saw a level of poverty and, extreme situations beyond what was happening in the UK. But for a child growing up in the UK, going to a school where it's 11% pass rate, where, it's just uncontrolled, with gangs and stuff like that, how do those kids, how do they create a future for themselves? How do they, no matter how much their parents are supporting them, it's a struggle, and that struggle is real. And as a social society, we need to, nurture those people. We need to look after them, Again, they are the future. Whatever happened with their parents or whatever happened to create that situation, those kids are the future. We need to support them as we do everyone else around the country for the equal opportunities. And I think Iris is also very right. The very little experience I had of learning about Black history in the UK was about the slave trade. And it was like logistics. It's like, where did the people go here? You know what I mean? It's like, like, how can you learn any value out of the slave trade by learning about it from a very do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the ships went there.
Do you know what I mean? It was.
And Black history doesn't start with slavery.
Exactly.
Black history does not start with slavery.
Exactly.
So,
and that was my experience of. Obviously, I didn't see the whole curriculum, but that was my experience of learning about Black history in the UK, about history related to Britain, and it didn't give a personal consideration to And I will say that one trip to Ghana, one day visiting one of those castles, taught me more about what happened in slavery than years of education in those schools. So as Ilo says, we need to recognize even beyond that Black culture and history as part of the world. And what is Black culture and history? And you know what I mean? It needs to be celebrated. As we talked about, I mentioned earlier, in terms of Windrush, I mean, there was a massive contribution of those people to the rebuilding of this country. And only in 2018 was even a National Windrush Day created. You know what I mean? From 1948 to that time. So I think there's a lot that can be done, and we can all be part of that,
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. Angel, over to you, Angel.
Okay, so top down, as I said, I can only speak from experience and what has worked and what has helped and supported me. And I think it's definitely organizations, looking inside of their, the representation of ethnic minorities within their organizations to help address or redress the balance and, smash the glass ceiling or whatever you want to call it. I think that has been fundamental to me getting ahead in this society, that, the people that helped me, or you can say maybe they had the white privilege, but the white privilege helped me, because they were educated. They saw me for my talent, and it wasn't about, let's just find a good Black person and so we can make our quotas. It wasn't about that. I had to work hard. I had to cases together, but it works. And I think when you have diversity in the organization, it really gets the conversation going. it really raises the awareness, and it really makes people think about what more can I do. And that's what we need from the top down is, more people thinking about what more can I do to improve the workplace, to, abolish the racism or whatever that may exist. So these things need to be rolled out into other sectors, within the workplace. So that, I think, as I said, I'm a testimony of diversity in the workplace. So I think it's really helped me to get ahead.
Yeah.
And then the other thing from a bottom up, there's a lot of things. I think within our own community, we need to look within ourselves and see the things that we're doing that can be corrected, because, it's not just the society or the government that's at fault. We have to do things to support our children, so I really feel like things like mentoring for young kids is really important. I asked my mum, because when I did experience racism, my mum even said, "Are you sure? Like, really?" Like, even my mum didn't believe. I said, "Well, Mum, do you remember me coming home and saying anything?" And she said, "No." She said, "But the only thing I do remember is one time you come home and you said you wanted to have long blonde hair." And she asked me why. And I said, "Because I want to be a princess." Yeah. So when I was young, I only saw images of white people, as being princesses and queens and stuff like that. So I think we need more images, positive images of Black people for the youngsters to aspire to, and to know that, actually, you can be a princess when you can have Black fuzzy hair. You don't have to have long blonde hair. So I think more positive images in the forms of dolls and things that they see on TV is really important for young people growing up. Mentors, as I said, is good for people that are going through primary school, secondary school and beyond, because with mentors they can help you get to where you want to be. So recognizing people within our own community, because I think we have so many good people within the Black and ethnic minority community, but not enough people that are actually working to help people up. So where you're in a position of power or influence, or where you're doing something that people would be surprised that there's a Black person running that company, you need to show yourself. People need to see you. You need to be visible. You need to be out there. We need to be doing more within our community to bring the rest up, if that makes sense. I could go on, to be honest with you, but I think there's more within the community that we can do, without waiting or lobbying. There's a lot that we can do within our community to make a change, and it starts with us, I think, and it starts with us saying this is what we want to happen, and it starts with, as I said, people within the organization, people within certain groups saying this is what we want, and taking action to get there. So it's no point saying, yes, we want this, we want that, and then tomorrow, news is something else. We need to take action, and that's where we're missing a trick. We need to be joined up. You see the Asian community, they've come here probably after us, I think. I don't know if we come before or after. I'm not sure the history of it. But, how is it that they've managed to get businesses? How is that they've been able to buy so many properties? How is it that they've been able to do a lot of things that, the Black community hasn't been able to do? So we need to look to what are the other ethnic minorities doing that we can do as well and implement. So learn from the successful ethnic minorities that are within the British community today. And I'll stop there.
Well,
Edson, Super Dixon.
Let's finish. Don't call me for my
Drop down,
bro.
down.
I was just going to say, some people obviously just said in the comments that I didn't know this was a funny show or whatever. I was just said, you gather entertainers, right?
Yeah, that was you, speaker.
We're gonna speak up. We're gonna make it fun. We don't want this to be.
Yeah.
So if you guys are with
exactly.
all of us in the same event, you're gonna go ballistic out of there. But
exactly. You can have a good time.
Yeah. So I do apologize, but hey, I'm crazy. I was gonna say, regarding the situation right here, I believe that it's really important. Richard, what are you drinking? I was gonna say it's really important. It's really important that people understand and this curriculum. When we talk about the Africans, it's not just, again, we're not trying to change nothing. It's just add the information. But I think the most important information, if you may, is to explain that when these people found out, when they went to Africa or they went to the islands, to the Caribbean islands, and they found this place, they discovered these places. You know what I mean? There was actually kingdoms there. There weren't savages there. And I think a lot of people in the European most side of it, even in America, obviously, they think that there were savages over there. So how do you change mentalities of people thinking that people were savages and we helped you be better people? Like, you know what I mean? I think this is, if you start to re-educate the youngsters, the parents, the grandparents, you know what I mean? It's a better way to kind of find what everyone wants. Everyone wants the same, right?
Yeah.
Well, can I say this? Everyone wants unity.
Yes.
Angel.
Unity.
Yeah, but it's pretty much that. I was going to say regarding to what Iris said as well. I forgot to remove my BAME champion thingy because I obviously in my community here in Plymouth, you know, when I moved to England, there was no Kizomba. There was very few salsa classes, and I came here and I started to push Kizomba because there was already a few people doing salsa. Everyone knows salsa, but there was no Kizomba. Like I said, I didn't want to be a teacher. I started to push things in my city, try to push like minorities to represent, to get out, to come and party, you know? And I actually, again, I got recognized by my own community for after 10 years for doing this. You know what I mean? That's why I was saying to Iris, that's why I'm trying to open myself and using my platform to keep people informed, to kind of not keep people against each other. You know what I mean? But it's not easy, you know.
What would you change? What would you change from the top down? Top down.
You're talking about government and stuff, right?
Yeah. Government, authorities, police, law enforcement.
My friend,
the people in control.
Oh my
what
God.
Do you want to change? What do you want to see? What change do you want to see from them?
I'm not gonna be. I don't want people to kind of hate me for my political opinions. I just think right now.
Get them out. Get them out.
Like everybody out. Now let's remake this right. I think things need to be restructured. I think the whole world.
Boris out, Edson in. Boris out, Edson in. Yeah.
Listen. I was gonna say.
Oh, no, not Edson.
Wait, bro. Don't go there. I always say I like Superman. He's a hero and all that. But if I'm being in power, I would be like Darth Vader, bro. So you don't want me in power. What did you say? No, I'm joking. I'm pure joking. But I think it's I think it was Angel. I think it was Angel that said it. Oh no, it was Richard. I think who said the empathy.
Yeah.
Man, and I think honestly, my people, everyone that is watching, I posted this on my stories today after I reading a couple stuff yesterday, and I think what is lacking in the world right now is empathy. And I really start to believe that not everyone has this ability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people need to happen to them so they can feel this. You know what I mean? Because I've been having even my own family telling me that I'm speaking up, you're putting us all in trouble. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? How about everyone that fought for us?
Yeah.
We have an opportunity right now to do something. I might even jeopardizing my career as an artist, but you know what? I'm literally going to say this loud. I'm tired. I'm tired of people looking at me different. I'm tired that because I have a different hair or because I'm like this, I'm tired of all that. You know what I mean? I'm tired of being quiet because of that. You know what I mean? And I think it's like, whether people like it or not, this is going to change. And people need to be prepared, and people need to educate themselves for that. And that's it. Cut me off, mute me.
Thank you very much, Edson. Yeah. All right. I think that's Thank you, Edson.
I'm a strong activist right here. You go check my page.
Yeah, check him out. Also, a big thank you to each of us. Literally, that's all we've got time for. It's after 9. We've been going 2 hours straight. Thank you to everyone who's stayed connected throughout. Yeah, we've had a very steady number of viewers throughout the whole thing. Everyone who's been commenting as well and keeping this interactive. I hope we haven't started any spats or started any conflict on the comments there that are going to carry on. But it's all, you know, we all want better. We all want better, don't we? I think we all want a common cause. So, and it's good that we have this platform here within the Kizomba community, because what more diverse community can you imagine in the UK? This is the most diverse, you know, thing that I've been involved in, and I'm really proud to be involved in this here at this time. So thank you very much to Angel, to Edson, to Iris, and to Richard. Thank you very much. Please keep an eye on this spot here. Same time, same place, next Sunday at 7 p.m. with the next series of Kizomba KO. We're going again. Yes, we're going again with Kizomba KO. Richard, free. Yep, and we're definitely going to be having some fun right here. So look out for more information on that. Lots of other things happening as well. So we'll be in touch with you. Keep an eye on www.oneloveradio.net for all different types of events and things going on. Not just One Love Radio events, but Unity, Batul, everything else going on. We're sharing it all from there. OneLoveRadio.net. So check it out, bookmark it, and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna try and play my last track. I think I've music issues. I don't know, but Edson, stay on standby just in case it doesn't work. I need you on standby, okay? So you're my fullback, all right? Wait, here we go.
Also, can I also say thank you to Richard, Iris, Super Dixon. It's been awesome on this.
Yes, thank you guys.
Yeah. Mitch, thank you for this, man.
It's been lovely.
Keeping us all here.
Thank you for getting us together, even if it was short notice. But I think you know,
yeah, very short
about this. But yeah, it's been a great panel of people. So thank you.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Yeah,
okay,
likewise. Take care, guys. This time
right,
I'm gonna go
care.
because you know
all right.
thing does.
By the way, Iris, well done. You stayed with us 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. All right, let's go. My last track. Everybody stay safe, stay well, peace, and one love.
Jamais pensei foi o teu. Depois que amor me deu, pensou que eu fosse. Eu nem sequer vou deixar de lhe amar. Já fiz todas as diligências pra comprar fogão, uma esteira e uma casa pra morar. E formar o nosso lar. Eu já fiz todas as diligências pra comprar fogão, uma geleira e uma casa pra morar. E formar o nosso lar. Na turbulência de nossa vida, você sempre me deu de nada. Cada fracasso uma olhada. E você sabe muito bem que meu desejo melhorar. E meu desejo melhorar também. E meu desejo melhorar. E meu desejo melhorar. Já fiz todas as diligências pra comprar fogão, uma casa pra morar, e formar o nosso lar. Na turbulência que é nossa vida, você sempre me deu de nada. Cada fracasso uma olhada, e você sabe muito bem que meu desejo melhorar, que meu desejo melhorar, que meu desejo melhorar, que meu desejo melhorar. Já fiz toda a diligência, assim fiz amor. Já fiz toda a diligência, tô cansado, amor. Já fiz toda a diligência.
Okay, guys, I think that's enough for today. I'm gonna go and chill out for the rest of the few hours we got for the weekend. All right, so see you around soon, guys. Thanks again, a big thank you once again. And don't forget, same time, same place next Sunday, 7 p.m. Kizomba KO.
Amor, amor, dá-me o teu carinho, o teu apoio me faz crescer. Amor, amor, vem ficar comigo.
You are listening to One Love Radio.
One love.